Well, good afternoon, YouTubers. This is Pete at the Roaming Prepper, and today we're going to talk about what's definitely on everyone's mind. Now, normally I do a Tuesday book club review, but Tuesday book club, I can't read books that fast, so we're going to do Tuesday talk show instead. Um, and I'll pick some aspect of news, something we can talk about, and we'll go from there. So today's topic is the hacks. Uh, Many of you know there was yet again another hack today, or yesterday, actually. Let me double check my facts here. Uh, JBS, the world's largest meat processor, is hit in a ransomware attack. So imagine that. We paid the hackers in the last hack, and now, granted, special forces may have gone and killed them. We don't know. But now we have another hack of another company. But in order to kind of understand this, because this seems to be speeding up, it seems to be more frequent now. I decided to go back a bit. So let me share some of the stuff I found. Um, some of the hacks from the last 5 years, and I found this one on Yahoo Finance. Um, and this was actually written back in 2015. Okay, so going back to October of 2013, Adobe, the PDF company, they got hacked, and that affected 150 million people. Then eBay got hacked, 145 million people back in 2014. Target also got hit. I remember that one. 40 million credit card and debit cards stolen. And the CEO of Target actually resigned after that one. What they did, now this is interesting. So, how it happened, the eBay attackers used a compromised employee login, but for Target, hackers used credentials from an HVAC contractor working in Target to get access to the network. Then Home Depot got it in 2014, mainly email addresses, a few debit cards, and Anthem. And we all remember that, I believe, was it Experian or Equifax? One of the credit unions got hacked. So the big hacks back in 2015, we're looking now, what, 6, 7 years ago, those series of big hacks were all, and this was just between the Obama and Trump administration. These were all commercial, these were all civilian sector hacks. That's what they were going after. But then they started getting creative. So going forward, we got the SolarWinds hack, which was back in 2020. And that one was pretty big because SolarWinds was using a system called Orion that allowed them to connect to their customers, right? Because they were kind of like this software energy outfit. And what wound up happening is once they got compromised, these hackers then systemically started spreading out. Now, unfortunately, SolarWinds was actually tied to US government agencies. So this is now a year and a half ago. So you kind of see the pattern here, right? These hackers started with smaller fish. And it's kind of like undoing a knot, right? You kind of find a thread and you start pulling it out and you keep pulling it out until eventually you've pulled out whatever, and like the sleeve falls off your sweater. That's exactly what these guys are doing. It just holistically, if you back up and kind of look at this, they were hitting companies. Now, I'm sure those big hacks I mentioned in 2015, there were many smaller hacks before that. And eventually they get into someone's computer, they get into a small company, which gets into a bigger company, and they start to speed up. So then SolarWinds was a big deal because these cats actually, and let me make sure I got the right info here, but these guys, and I'm going to throw the link out here for y'all. So this SolarWinds outfit was actually tied to multiple government agencies. So this is now a year and a half ago. So this has been going on for 7, 8 or more years. These really systemic hacks. And the telemarketer, uh, these hacks, once they breached the IT company SolarWinds, right? They got into something like that. That's where you start seeing government agencies start getting hit shortly thereafter. So in early 2020, and this is on Business Insider, hackers secretly broke into Texas-based SolarWinds systems and added malicious codes into the software. The system called Orion was widely used by companies to manage IT resources. So they worked their way into and finally figured out how to compromise an IT company that left government agencies exposed. So this is now SolarWinds told the SEC that up to 18,000 of its customers installed updates that left them vulnerable to hackers, including Fortune 500 companies, multiple agencies in the US government, and a few more. Microsoft President Brad Smith said in a February congressional hearing, this was back in 2020, that more than 80% of the victims targeted were non governmental agencies, but a few of them were. And there's where you start seeing the U.S. agencies, including the Pentagon, the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Energy, the Nuke Security Administration, and the Treasury, and I believe there was Department of Agriculture as well. I might be wrong, as well as Kent State University and the California Department of State Hospitals. All those hacks. Now you've gone from little companies and individuals to bigger companies to big commercial targets, like I mentioned, Target, Adobe, Home Depot, all these guys. And then they were able to get that golden nugget. They got into a big IT firm. Once that happened, that's where you see. So once you move from there, now you fast forward to, let's see what the date was. This would be December of 2020. So by the end of 2020, they had compromised. Let me see if I can get the screen a little bigger. According to CNN now, Department of Agriculture, which was a SolarWinds customer, Department of Commerce, USPS, the DoD, and the Department of the Treasury. Now, notice what we've seen hacked this year after this got breached. Oh, and they also broke into the Cybersecurity Agency of the US, which is just embarrassing. But notice how they did it. They took the steps up, and now they got into the big agencies. And after this is where they start playing the game. Now let's think about this. They got into the federal agencies, they got all this intel. They got into, that was the goal. Because from the federal side, now you can start seeing those connected networks in the infrastructure. And now we're starting to see those manifest themselves in other areas. So again, the pipeline hack back earlier this year, Colonial Hack. So Colonial Hack was exposed to government's, well, it says here the government's light touch of oversight for pipeline security. But the bottom line was the DOE got hacked too. So you're having a bit of a disconnect between the federal agencies and the large corporations and companies that are in charge of the infrastructure. They're getting hacked, and what the hackers seem to be doing is starting small, working their way up, and then trying to find where they can leverage. You shut down the Department of Energy, that's not affecting people day to day. But through the Department of Energy, if you can go and shut down Colonial, that's a problem. Now, Colonial learned from the hacks in the past, right? So when SolarWinds got hacked, they didn't shut it down right away, and those hackers were able to get their fingers into a bunch of other pies, if you will. Colonial saw the hack, their IT department battled with it, and then realized the best option was to quarantine it. So they shut themselves in until they could manage it, and hence why the pipeline went down the way it did. It was the only play they had to guarantee that that compromise would not make its way into other companies. Now, one of the frightening things about this that I found out afterward is that Colonial was connected not only to downstream, so you have the pipelines in the middle. You have drilling and exploration and production on one side, goes through the pipeline to distribution centers and other refineries, and basically the output into countries, communities, gas stations, whatever. They were in the middle. Notice what they were doing. I think this was by design. They could have just hacked Exxon, tried to hack Exxon directly, or hack the distribution of whatever Valero is so and so gas directly. No, they wanted to get in the middle so they could go sideways and start hitting both ends. Fortunately, Colonial's IT department was smart enough to stop that. But think about it. They shut down one of the biggest pipelines in this nation. If you wanted to hurt the US and invade us or attack us or do something and shut us, screw up our ability to respond, you would shut down that pipeline. So I had to look back almost 10 years to start seeing these things hitting the media. Hack of Adobe, hack of Equifax, hack here, hack there. Then they start getting bigger and bigger and bigger until, bam, they get into government agencies. Once the government was compromised, they got whatever data they could. The feds locked them out, right? Because that's what the feds will do. But now, all of a sudden, this year, you start seeing Colonial get shut down. And now they shut down JBS. And I heard about it earlier today, and I really hadn't read about it. So let's see what they say. Now I'm going to put this one up there. This is from the Boston Globe. I love searching new news. Q, you might be, that would be interesting. If someone wanted to destabilize the government, they most definitely could. That would be a hell of a way to do it. Now, you figure the Rona, which I'm not going to say more about it because they'll probably give me a penalty box flag, but there are lots of questions about the Rona. All of a sudden, everyone's doing an about face and going, well, this illness was a little too convenient, right? Because now people are really starting to ask hard questions. So we'll put the Rona to the side. We'll focus on the hacks. But yeah, I know where you're going. You want to destabilize a country. That's a hell of a way to do it. You screw up the oil prices, screw up energy, right? Because we were built on affordable energy. Oil and gas still is the affordable means for energy. I don't object to a variety of energy. I think actually strategically that's a smart play. But you do that, that didn't do the trick. Okay, let's shut down meat processing. And I suspect we're not done here. So we got a couple of angles to look at this. One is an international player is doing this deliberately because they're about to do something that the US in general would object to. And they're trying to figure out what's the best way to screw us up before they make a play. Two, there's the possibility that it's someone in the government, either because they have an agenda or they're in cahoots with the guy overseas. Wouldn't be the first time we've had someone in the Fed screw with the country because someone was writing them a big check overseas. Option three, it could just be really greedy hackers. I mean, the last guys, I think that was perfect. Yeah, I have my opinions of eating fake meat and bugs. I've seen that, and I'm not talking about tofu, like a veggie that tastes like meat. No, yeah, I do. No, I'm not a fan of that, nor bugs. I've eaten them, usually on drunken dares. Always regretted it. Not something I want to do. But yeah, definitely. This too many things happening a little too consecutively, and it kind of blows my mind that people aren't paying attention. What's interesting is during the Colonial hack, and I'm an energy sector guy. I literally walked into the local gas station and I was like, "Hey, your prices are up, and you don't have, unleaded." Oh yeah, the Impossible meat. Nope, nope. If you want, watch Angry Prepper's video on fake meat. I was in tears after about 60 seconds because he went off on a rant about that. But you think about it, you mess with proteins. Now Brazil and Argentina just got hit with, was it Argentina got hit with some very strange weather that ruined or damaged a lot of their corn crop. So they're keeping their corn and their grain products internal to feed their own cattle, which is now screwing Brazil, which is, many of us know, a major meat producing company besides the US and Canada. So, and Canada has big ranches, believe it or not, in the western part of the country. Um, yeah, he does not like spam. I wanted to send him a spam recipe just to mess with the guy, but he's a big boy. I don't know if I want to do that. Although he does have a good sense of humor. But you kind of see where this is going. So here's a thought someone threw at me the other day, which I thought was interesting. So China's being aggressive, Russia's being aggressive, Iran's being aggressive. Right now, the big checking point to them is, an aircraft carrier going and sending a bunch of F-15s and, you know, whatever other attack aircraft and screwing up their country. So they don't want that. So what's a good way to screw us up? Well, if you turn off our gas, screw up our food, and then put us all in the dark. So basically, the only people functioning are the Pentagon and, the White House. You're going to string the country out, because where do you send your resources? Do you fight the international threat, or do you deal with the domestic problems? There's only so many boots to go around. So this has been interesting, because this JBS, another ransomware attack. Now, they say, I heard somewhere that the guys who hacked the pipeline got paid. Then they somehow, I guess the Air Force figured out and pulled the money out, and then pulled another few million just for giggles. But then those hackers disappeared. So I kind of wonder if, somebody traced an IP address and said, oh, you guys are in whatever country. And, a little Black Hawk helicopter showed up there about an hour later, and a bunch of dudes came out, and now there are no hackers because they're all dead in the desert or in the jungle, wherever, in a basement somewhere. Purely speculation on my part, but it wouldn't be a surprise. The bottom line is, this stuff's starting to speed up. It's starting to get more systemic, and it's starting to affect things that are very painful. So real quick, and this is a short article, JBS, the world's largest meat producer, so now it's affecting more than just the US of A, too, if you think about it, was the target of a ransomware attack. The White House said Tuesday in what company officials believe to be an extortion attempt perpetrated by criminal groups likely based in Russia. Now, we all know if you ping off a Russian IP address, it could be China, it could be North Korea, we don't know. But they're thinking Russia. Cyber attacks have become more commonplace, but the hack against JBS is the latest high-profile incident to highlight the massive vulnerability of corporations, government agencies, and civil society groups. JBS said in a news release that it detected the intrusion on its computer networks in North America and Australia, but that its backup servers were not affected. So at least their IT guys were on point. The company, which is working with an outside cybersecurity firm to restore its systems, said it is unaware of any evidence the attackers compromised or misused data tied to its customers, suppliers, or employees. It may delay certain transactions with customers or supplies. That's disturbing, because maybe their goal wasn't to get into the customers. Their goal is to be disruptive. They're trying to say, hey, Jennifer, how are you? Yeah, it's a lot worse. They keep pinging on Russia. It could be Iran. It could be China. It could be someone inside the country who's got their hands on stock. I'm going to propose two things, and I'm going to put my conspiracy hat on. One, someone's about to make an international play somewhere, and they want to figure out how to disrupt us so we can't go and mess with them. For instance, someone may not have been happy with just Crimea. They might want part of the Ukraine, or someone might want Taiwan, or two someones might both want something. And if we can discombobulate the US of A, it'll give us a chance to do what we want to do while the president and his pretty new administration is scrambling to deal with this domestic issue. Or someone's making money off of it. So I'm really curious, and I haven't had a chance. I've been looking at, the various investment companies, Bloomberg and Yahoo Business and Fidelity and Edward Jones, trying to see like what's their take, what stocks are moving up and down. I'm really curious where the money's going. Not just the hackers ransom, I want $5 million, and all that, and they get money. I wonder where it's going. And Jennifer, we just touched on that actually. I don't know if you were here. This potato head discombobulated. Yeah, I agree. I worry about him. I don't believe he's the devil. I don't agree with him, but it reminds me a bit of what happened with Lenin. He was the old idealist, and he was very old. And when he passed, you had Stalin and Trotsky. Stalin ran Trotsky off. And then we all know what Stalin did after. So who's our Stalin? Just my take. But anyway, I'm probably going to get the penalty flag from the tube. I'm wondering. It almost seems like probes. If you've ever read these books of generals, whether it was Julius Caesar or Patton, during the Civil War, it was notorious to send skirmishers, right? And they'll go and pick up a little fight here and pick a little fight there. And possibly, Q, somebody wants to cause a food shortage, to cause panic. That's a good way to get people under control. And that is, was it Zelensky's? Yeah, Zelensky's, what's his name? His 10 steps to a takeover, whatever it was. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. And one of them was to control food. Control food, you control medicine, you control power. Okay, it was Zelensky. Okay, I wasn't sure it was hallucinating. So again, you have a lot of this. It's just a little too, and look, guys, as I've said before in my other videos, I'm an engineer, right? I love looking for patterns because that's how you design things. You see certain failure modes, and you're like, oh, we can fix it if we fix this failure mode. This is kind of awful. I mean, this is systemic break-in of infrastructure. And honestly, this is a national security issue. It's a big one. Yes, rules for radicals. Thank you, Yardbird. This is a national security concern at this point. Imagine multiple things like this happening all at once. Now, the Texas grid going down was partly our own fault in Texas because we didn't winterize our crap, because it never stays 10 below zero for a week in this part of Texas. But, and wars and rumors of war, Jennifer. Yeah, it's it's concerning. There's a lot of instability, and what shocks me is people don't see it. And I think all the preppers and all of us in this community, we're constantly saying this to each other. Like I said, I'd gone to gas stations during the pipeline outage, and I was like, you don't have, 93 octane, you don't have diesel, what's going on? Oh, we just couldn't get any. And, my wife was in fuel logistics, and I was upstream, and we knew about it. We're like, whoa, the refineries can't keep up. They can't get product to refine. And there were people in the industry. There were people who make their living with energy either from the sun or from the wind or from the oil and gas, which would affect everybody, and none of them knew. And it just blows my mind, the lack of obliviousness, I don't know if that's a technical word, that's occurring. So this is very concerning. I've touched base with a couple of people, and my brother, he's another military guy like I am, and I'm sure he already knows, because usually by the time I call him and I'll be like, "Hey, did you read the news?" He'll be like, "Dude," and he already has notes and stuff. So, but that's concerning, because either A, someone's trying to, again, if it's someone internal, that's this would be one of the biggest acts of treason I could think of, is to basically incapacitate your own nation. Or B, uh, the someone overseas is planning something, but they need to figure out how to shut us down for a while before they do it. Usual earthquakes. Mm-hmm. Me, as in many parts of the world. Yeah, and that's scary, Jennifer, because there's a lot of. So right now, Brazil is hurting. They got hit very bad with the Rona, and the favelas. If you're not familiar, the favelas, you've probably seen on TV. There's these buildings stacked on top of each other in the sides of mountains, and there's a lot of poverty, right? And not going into why they have this situation, but they're so close together. Africa's the same way. India, you have these people packed together. JBS is exporting protein to many, many countries, not just the USA. If anything, we're one of the sources of protein. So we'll get hurt, but it won't hurt us anywhere near as much as some other countries. Um, Again, Argentina has stopped their exports. Let me see if I can find that again. Uh, I actually got it on a State Department email, but let me see if I can find it now. Uh, the Argentina doesn't even have enough corn and feed to send to their neighbor Brazil. So they're basically saying, "Oh, we're just keeping it for ourselves." But in doing so, now Brazil's hurting. They're having to destroy product. I believe during the coronavirus, was it England that had to destroy like 1 million mink, which are fur animals, really, and then a bunch of chickens. This has been really bizarre. I've never seen humanity being forced to destroy so many of their own sources of sustenance as I've seen lately, and it's uh, starting to get really weird. Um, Global State Department newsletter: ransomware gangs slow decryptors, prompt victims to seek alternatives. I don't know where exactly they're going with that. Uh, but yeah, we're starting to see this. These hacks are starting to affect other countries. Sorry, donating their products to food banks in droves. Well, Q, if we run with that theory, then that would certainly explain if Argentina has some kind of crop malfunction. They can't send their product over to Brazil. Argentina and Brazil are both beef producers. That's going to hurt. Now the US is discombobulated. Brazil can't feed their beef. Argentina can barely keep up. You just took that green belt of protein product and screwed it all up. Mexico hasn't reported major issues yet, but the smaller countries like Nicaragua, Peru, they don't produce as much. I mean, Brazil and Argentina are the two big beef producers down there, and we're us and Canada up here. Canada hasn't reported any issues yet, but that doesn't mean they're not having any. Um, that's interesting. I missed this one. Myanmar, which is a very large population, largely in poverty, struggle to buy food as coup price hike bites. So fuel prices, factory closures sound familiar? A lot of these larger countries that create stability in their zones of influence are all fighting the same thing at once. Um, that's that's concerning. And here, Russia appears to carry out hack through system used by a U.S. aid agency. That's another one. Good grief! This one was reported by our buddy Bill Gates's people. Let's see how that. Oh well, it's thinking thoughts at the moment. So a lot of instability in food. Um, and granted, during the Rona, we had, yeah, someone's playing games. Q, and it, my fear is you keep. It's like playing Jenga. You keep poking it, and eventually it's going to fall on someone. And okay, so here it is. Uh, oops. Oh, of course, now it's just stupid New York Times. It said you must pay for this option. So I guess we're not reading that article today. Um, and here's another one. Hackers walked away from the ransomware of Colonial with 4.4 million. Federal officials have linked the attack to a Russia-based black hat group called DarkSide, which we all know. Researchers say has extracted 46 million in ransom payments this year alone. That sounds like an op. Just saying. I might be speculating there, but this is concerning. So how do we do this? I mean, obviously, none of us on this call can really affect this kind of stuff. And we're getting into hurricane season, right? So we're going to have disruptions along the Gulf Coast of Texas, Louisiana, which conveniently are also where refineries are. So we start getting a bunch of hurricanes. It's going to shut down drilling refineries all along the coast, which is exactly what the freeze did. Hey, Northern Girl, it's good to see you too. It's what can we do as individuals? Well, I have a couple of thoughts. One, as always, start with the basics. I've had a lot of new people reach out to me, and when I say new, not just new to me, but new to preparedness, new to stalking, and they'll ask, well, what do I do? Where do I start? I would start, and I've told them, and many of you more experienced folks know this, start with the basics. I said, get through 72 hours. Just start there. And I said, make goals. So this is, again, a business concept. Set realistic goals. Okay, if you start and say, I'm going to get 6 months of food today, you're not going to be able to pay your car payment. You can't do that. Start with 72 hours and then build from there. I've also told some of the college age kids, work in groups, right? Because they're all broke anyway. So if one of you has a Sam's card or your mom has a Sam's card, get the Sam's card, go to Sam's, but bring 8 kids with you. And everybody, fill up a cart and then Venmo 8 ways. Now it suddenly became cheap and each of you has stuff. We can't affect personally this stuff other than, make sure your passwords aren't like password 123. And yes, I thought it was a joke. I've actually seen people with password 123 as their password. Don't do that. That would be like, if I was a hacker, that'd be the first thing I'd try. Just secure your passwords, turn off your computers when you're not using it, stuff like that. But you can't help it if the bank gets hacked. None of us could help the pipeline getting hacked. So pay attention, because what I'm noticing is when all of us in our community notice something, it's a week before the general public starts hearing about it. Like they click. And we'll have talked it to death. I mean, the horse is dead and we're poking it with sticks and we've beaten it to death already. And all of a sudden, like the rest of the public freaks out. When we got shut down for COVID, a lot of us had already been talking about it a month and a half before. Then the president makes an announcement, but it wasn't until a week later that all the toilet paper disappeared. There's like this delay that people it doesn't click. I don't know why. Um, uh, you can also so make sure you have basics. Um, get your circle to prep, even if it's just 72 hours. What I would tell them is, if they're not preppers, is to tell them, well, it takes about 72 to 40, 72 hours to a week for FEMA to show up in an emergency. So we should have that much food just in case, because we had the COVID and we had the blackouts and et cetera, et cetera. And that way they're not, getting defensive with what you're saying or thinking you're a conspiracy theorist. Um, but if everyone in your circle very asleep or like with meat short, what meat shortage? Yeah, la di da are the ones who freak out uh, when everything goes sideways. They're the ones who don't know what to do. It's kind of funny. I During Hurricane Ike, and I already had my preps because that was like Hurricane 7 for us. I think I mentioned on the other live stream. I stopped at a food store and I walked in and it was a disaster. There were just people everywhere. And all I was looking for was 4 more cans of black beans, 2 of which I was going to cook that night because I was going to make chili before that we would eat while the power went out. And they were freaking out. And I ran into a couple who had just moved from Chicago, and the wife was in tears in one of the aisles. And I thought she was like having some kind of medical issue. And I walked over to her, I asked her if she was okay. And she said, my cousin went through Katrina and we just moved down here. And she was just freaking out. And I was like, okay, are you here with your family? And she said, yeah, I'm here with my husband and my son. I said, go get them. I'll wait for you here. And once they got together, I said, okay, follow me. And I gave them, the 10-minute tour of what they need to worry about, where to get some stuff that people aren't normally looking. I saw people buying 3 dozen eggs, 10 dozen eggs. I mean, the power is going to go out. It's Houston. It's going to blow. The power goes out. Eggs are spoiled. Unless you're making the most massive uh, set of chorizo and egg tacos that night, you're probably going to waste those eggs. Or you're making cascarones for Easter. I don't know, but you're going to waste the food. They don't pay attention. So tell your friends, family, your circle, hey, do you have 72 hours of stuff? Do you have a first aid kit? Do you have a fire extinguisher? These are some of the most basic things, but I promise you, if people actually had a couple of packs of toilet paper in their house when the Rona announcement was made by the president, you probably wouldn't have seen that panic in the stores. And then if you want to really get a laugh, watch, I think it was also Angry Prepper. He's been on several rants this last month. People putting gas in the big Tupperware bins you put Christmas ornaments in, or clear trash bags, because that's where gas goes. The fact that people didn't kill themselves blows my mind. And I'm sure someone did, and we don't know about it. As far as what we can do, make sure your preps are up to date. Make sure anything expired is gone. Buy the new stuff if you can, as soon as possible. If finance limits what you can do, talk to some people and oh yay, oh yeah, Q, yeah. And what's funny, Q is my dog is the one that always talks smack. Is 15 pounds of fluff. Like I don't know what he's going to do to anyone. Um, but the where was I? I just lost my train of thought. The break up that expenditure with someone you trust. And they may not need it for prepping. You may just say, hey, I'm going to buy pasta at Costco, but I don't need all of it. You want to split one with me? And they're like, yeah, sure. And you get half, they get half. Save that money wherever you can. I do recommend having cash because power outages, bank hacks, stuff like that, and all of a sudden you're not going to be able to pull money out of the bank. So make sure you have whatever cash you can spare in physical currency somewhere in your house, at least for the short term type of situation. Obviously, if things really go into some horrendous collapse, the money will also be useless. But at least for the short term, it works. Um, my fear, because of my job, is things will happen and I'm going to be on the road. Somebody hacks everything, and yeah, Northern Girl. That's I have mine spread to different accounts, and then I have cash at the house in the safe. Same thing. I don't want all my eggs in one basket, uh, because it'll bite you, and that's yeah, that's a good play. Make sure you spread it out. If you have a safe, that's a great thing, but I would also put it elsewhere where it's not as obvious. So if someone does try to find it and steal it, they're going to have to work for it. Uh, but make sure you have your basics in order. And like I mentioned on the last live stream, it is hurricane season, so you're going to start seeing those disruptions that are seasonal. We actually were flooding out here in West Texas, and I think I posted on Instagram that big hail ball that was dropping on people's chickens. Um, Make sure you have the fundamentals: the food, the water, the medicine, the protective items, and clothing suitable for the weather that may or may not be occurring. If it's hurricane, you may want rain gear and stuff like that. Okay, Northern Girl, I actually oh, what was the brand? Tough. It's not Tough Shed. Um, Tough Box. Under the back seat of my F-150, I actually have a safe runs the entire length of the back bench, and I have, the seat is like 1/3 lifts, like the one seat, and then the two seats on the left. So the doors of the safe open the same way. So, which was nice. Originally, it was so that, like, if we stopped at a bar, my wife could put her purse, her jewelry, and just bring like her ID and a debit card in her pocket, and all the valuables stay in there. Or if I couldn't bring my sidearm, I could leave it in there. And I knew, like, if you broke in, you'd have to work to get into that box. But it also be a great place to put some extra cash. That's actually a really good idea, and it's not convenient to steal. Um, and Q, that's something that scares me. Is that people who should know? If you came from Montana and you've never seen a hurricane before, okay, you probably are confused by what everyone's doing. If you live there and you don't even have a 72-hour box, you're just asking for trouble. You're asking to really get hurt somehow. Um, Again, these hacks, guys, and again, that was kind of the starting point of this live stream. These hacks have been systemic. They've been getting worse, and now they're targeting infrastructure for energy, food. I have a feeling you're going to see economic hacks next. A credit card, a bank, ATM manufacturer, something that's going to disrupt the community across a wide space. And they're probably going to go now that if they're getting brazen, where they're hacking global meat suppliers. We get bad tornadoes. Yeah, Louisiana, South Louisiana, Texas, you get tornadoes follow the hurricanes just because of all the turbulence. Um, and But yeah, you're going to start seeing these hacks are going to target. They're targeting things that uh, are hurting the populace. It's not just, oh, I'm hacking, Department of whatever, and I want the U.S. government to give me, $1 million. They're deliberately targeting things that will cause public panic to put pressure on politicians and leaders, and to disrupt society. And I'm afraid the next few we're going to see are probably going to be more along global distributions. Hopefully not, but you might see targeting of grids, targeting of refineries, stuff like that. Something that if they take it down, it's really going to mess things up. So, I mean, I don't know how much fuel capacity you can store. Some of you are homesteaders, you got some room, but try to pay attention. I've noticed, like I said earlier, we seem to have a 1 week lead on the public, a 1 week to a month lead on the public before they freak out. We're already talking about it. So try to stay ahead of that curve, because that will give us that extra buffer to make any last minute adjustments before things get ugly. Uh, One last thing, and I was trying to see, I swear the DoD hack was in 2020 in December. And what's funny, in 2018, I'm seeing the Department of the Defense expands hack the Pentagon uh, defensive protocols. So they were already trying to reinforce themselves against that, and then lo and behold, they got hacked anyway last December. They started small, they worked their way up. Now they're in agencies. Now they're affecting infrastructure. This is systemic, guys. Um, whether it's for money or for a greater nefarious purpose, um, this is not going to end, and I sadly I suspect it's going to cause major problems in the future. So pay attention to what's going on, because, like I said, we seem to be about a month to a week ahead of the curve with everyone else. So those last minute adjustments, being able to be the person who goes to the ATM and gets your extra cash before the rush hits, can make a big difference. Um, I would also reach out to any circle you have of people who are like minded, and make sure that they're up to speed too, because the more people that are ready in your circle, the less likely you are to have someone show up completely not knowing what to do. Um, but yeah, that's the take on the hacks there. This JBS is going to be a big problem. I'm going to see, there was one other article. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Uh, oh, and oil just went to $71 a barrel, which is, oh, that's not what I wanted to open, which is great and awful at the same time. Five Virgins, that's a good point. The cities are going to have a major problem. And I'm not talking about cities like Tulsa and Houston that are kind of spread out. They're surrounded by farms and country. They've got military bases nearby. They've got a lot of infrastructure of their own. But the Detroits, the LAs, the New Yorks, those kind of cities where you have five ways off of Manhattan, which are either, or seven ways, which are either bridges or tunnels, and that's the only way any product can get in. Uh, they're going to have a real crap show. Um, Again, as I told someone else, imagine if that grid collapsing in Texas, which was largely weather, was a hack in a Northeast city in the midst of winter. Uh, how many folks would have died in their apartments because they couldn't get down 30 flights of stairs? I mean, I can't even think about it. It's scary. The cities are going to have a very hard time getting product in. And sadly, the best way to control the cities from completely going into the toilet is to enforce martial law. And they're going to start putting food distribution. You're going to see soldiers on the streets. Um, I'm trying to flee the city, but it's not bad here in the valley. Houston. Yeah, and again, Q, if you're close to countryside, you can retreat to country. But again, some of these cities like LA is just such a massive creation. If you live downtown, it's an hour by car to get out of the city, much less on foot. You want to see a good example of a bad evacuation? Look at Hurricane Rita in Houston. Everyone tried to evacuate at the wrong time, even though the governor was saying, no, no, go by stages. Everyone freaked. They all tried to leave at once. And I think more people died on the highway from accidents, fires, and injuries and overheating and strokes than died in the actual damn hurricane. It's horrifying. So let's see what JBS stock. So JBS is actually, so JBS SA is a Brazilian company. Huh. I did not realize that. I should have read this up sooner. It's a Brazilian company. Subsidiary is JBS USA, Sierra Food, Pilgrim's Pride. Any of these sound familiar? And of course, now it doesn't want to show it. So headquarters is in Greeley, Colorado. So it's not a, this is not a small company, guys. This is a massive issue. Their stock is going up, surprisingly. So Pilgrim's Pride, Sierra, Five Rivers Cattle and Feeding, Rigamonti, San Munifico, that looks Italian, a meat cooperative, Sierra Holding in Europe, Smithfield Beef, JBS Investments GmbH, which would make it German, Infinity Bioengineering, that's interesting, Swift Pork Company. Holy cow, these guys own a bunch of stuff. Wow. Yo, I don't even know what to say about this. That's kind of, yeah, the stock looks like it's going up. Let me back up here and see. Oops. That is suspect. Let's look. So let me give it 1 year. Let's go back. It took a little drop a few days ago, and it's up to 12 bucks. The lowest it had gotten actually was $6 in November of 2020. The stock is on an upward swing in the last 5 days. Let's see. It went up 6.17% in the past 5 days. Oh, wow. I'm going to have to read more on these guys. That's one fifth of, okay, another article, 1/5 of U.S. beef capacity wiped out by the JBS cyber attack. All of JBS's U.S. beef plants were forced to shut down because they can't keep track of anything. One of the JBS cyber attack could contribute to rising meat prices as the grilling season heats up. Well, that's convenient. Okay. I wasn't planning to go down that little rabbit trail, but that just kind of popped up. I was just curious to see if it was tanking. Huh. So hack. So this is a lot of companies getting affected in a lot of countries, and we've already talked about Argentina, Brazil, Europe, and the U.S. All are now affected. All U.S. are affected, raising pressure on supplies. And you know, supply and demand. If supply goes down, the price goes up. So that's really, and of course, yes, rabbits, very good food. And I had a friend in Louisiana say he could hunt gators. I've never had to clean a gator, but I've eaten gator, and it is very good. Yeah, there's a lot of disruption. I'm wondering if the next disruption we see is going to be the ability to feed the animals, like Q is just alluding to. Kind of like what we saw in Argentina last week, but that was mainly due to weather. But something else, a hack, a contamination of some type. Oh, and just to add fun to everything, China has, we were talking briefly earlier about the Rona, everybody doing a U-turn and saying, well, the Rona may be a lab-created contraption. Apparently, China has just had, where is it? China just had a very different outbreak. And I'm trying to see if I can find it. Bear with me just a second. Basically, the H1 China bird flu. China reports first human case of H10N3 bird flu, possibly first. Huh. 41-year-old man has contracted what might be the world's first case of the H10N3 bird flu. But the risk of large-scale spread is low. So, something else exciting on the yeah, so what was that? They have only so much food to feed. And that's a good point, Q. We've got and keep in mind during the Suez screw up where all these shipping containers were out there in the ocean, there were live animals on a lot of those, and they only have enough food to get from A to B. So that was a price disruption, and we all saw that and have been talking about that on various channels. So it's I find it interesting that now Argentina is running out of feed. The meat plants are shutting down. It's almost too many things all attacking the food supply. Yes, and propaganda too, most definitely. So yeah, to Q's point, you do have the supplies. If they can't keep track of what's going and coming, they don't know where to send feed or hay. They may have the product, they don't know where to send it, right? Because their just-in-time system has gone down the toilet. So you have animals that may run out of food. Now, hopefully it'll take a few days, but there's a lot of things going on simultaneously affecting food. And if you haven't seen Ice Age Farmer's video, I think it was from earlier this week or last week, he had a really good one on this. I encourage you to go look at that one as well. But yeah, definitely have food, try to stack up on, especially the meats. The meats have been getting hit a lot lately. And yeah, I got my thoughts on that. So, but definitely get the basics. And as far as the people who don't want to listen, and you can try a different angle. You can talk to them and say, hey, if the power goes out, you need to have flashlights. Some people will listen, some won't. I would make sure don't advertise too much what you do or don't have and where you have it. I know that sounds funny coming from the guy on the YouTube video, but you don't want folks targeting you or just being a pain in your butt in general. Yes, pressure canning. Northern Girl, that is something on my list. Unfortunately, I have a smaller house now, so I don't know where to put the pressure canner. I finally started seeing them at Ace Hardware of all places. So I've been pondering. I got to look into that because I'm understanding you can pressure can chili, you can pressure can ground beef, chicken. I'm assuming it doesn't have to be cooked and then canned. Can you put it in there raw? Um, yeah, I'm not sure. Now, as far as growing crops, I actually have a hydroponic air garden. It's a little one, and I've been learning how to harvest basil and dill and some other small herbs uh, just in a confined space to see how I do, and also to kind of understand what the best way of trimming the plants is so I don't put them into shock. So if you can get a little air garden or hydroponic or even an indoor garden, um, heck, even if it's just little jalapeno plants in your windowsill, that's something you can trade with people, right? Um, you can raw pack and hot pack. Okay, I have nothing. Okay, I need to look more into that pressure canning stuff. That would be my next evolution. It's amazing what you can get around to learn to do when your kids move out. I love my kids, but it's kind of funny because I didn't have time for that. Let your herbs and stuff go to seed too. Yeah. What I'm actually going to do is they're in that little aero garden, which is hydroponic underneath. I'm actually going to start transplanting them into pots and then putting a light over them so they have their own environment, each little plant to grow in. Uh, First time doing chicken. Is it on your channel, Northern Girl? And oh, Q just got. Did you get the little one that has a little light on top that you can adjust the height? Because that one's very cool. That's the one I got. Actually, as a gift from my daughter, who is now on her own journey to preparedness. Fortunately, her boyfriend is a former firefighter who has seen things go bad, and he's like, "Oh no, we're not going to get caught flat-footed." So he's thinking ahead. I like the guy. He's doing good. Um, Sadly, I have people in my family who give me the "I'm coming to your house," or "I'm going to my mom and dad," or "I'm going to wait for the government." 6 sets of grow lights. Oh, and that may be what I have to do if I transplant them from the aero garden to their own pots. I'm going to have to put a grow light of some type because I'm pretty sure a regular old light bulb isn't going to cut it. Um, this one, I've been canning. I've been a canning madwoman these past few weeks. That's good. Northern, I'm gonna check on your channel. I should be a sub, but I've been getting kicked off. I'm not getting notifications. I tried to listen to Angry Prepper earlier today, and he cut in and out, no audio. I was getting kicked off of videos. I don't know what the deal is, but um, the running joke is Russian hackers are screwing with YouTube. What did work say? Oh, it was actually good news. Work has not had good news for me this last week, so that was pleasant. Oh no, the herbs won't feed you at all. No, no. This is more me trying to learn because this is a new skill set. So I figure if I do herbs and I screw them up, I can dehydrate them and put them in a mason jar, and I have spices. Uh, but yeah, unfortunately, moving to where I did, the subdivisions are smaller, so I'm limited with what I can grow, what space I have, and in this arid environment, I really need to look at how Road Preparedness is doing hers because she's out in Arizona, and that's way dry, and she's been able to grow some stuff. So, but yeah, uh, LED bulbs will work. You can pop the plastic top off the. Oh, really? I will have to try that. Yeah, but definitely make sure you have what you can to stock for you and yours. Um, yeah, and Q, I'm gonna have to now that you said dog has to go potty. I'm probably gonna have to walk the corgis before they destroy the kitchen. Um, by the way, corgis apparently can pull molding off of walls when they get annoyed with each other. I don't know what the molding had to do with the dog argument, but yeah. So another project for the weekend. In any case, guys, I'm gonna call it right now. But thank you for coming by. Thanks for all your questions and your comments. Northern Girl, I will check your channel. As far as the canning stuff, I definitely want to see that. But guys, this is going to affect pricing. The fuel, now the distribution, this stuff's going to get more expensive. If you watch a vid when you sub, you'll get a sub from channels. Okay, I'll double check and see. Maybe I could have screwed it up too if I didn't have glasses. But in any case, guys, if you're on the road or you're planning to travel, Godspeed. Be safe out there. Help each other out. And watch these hacks because I think they're going to go for something that's really going to hurt in the next couple of months. So you guys take care, and I hope to see y'all later on. Bye.